I had multiple people tell me, and one of them, again, to qualify it, unlike what I just did, where it's like a guy who knows a guy, like this is a guy who everyone knows. Told me like he thinks that they think it's going to be the best front seven in the country. And I think like when you hear that and understand like what they've been talking about all offseason of like, we got 6 starters in the interior. 6. Last year, like there were times, I just said this on my show, there were times last year that, yeah, Mason and Kenneth weren't out there and you were kind of like scratching your head. You're like, this is a big play and you absolutely need those guys out there. That's actually going to pay dividends that they weren't, but they still played way more than they should have, right? The fact that you got more reps for Enoetta, Ikawana, and Trey Pierce is huge. Then becomes the question, can Trey Williams and Damon Payne, can those guys be what we think they can be that they weren't at their previous schools? And I think that makes everything interesting. And I'm not mentioning Rayshon because he's kind of the constant, but just by virtue of just being able to rotate these guys in, keep them fresh, because last year that was a problem, but you still got very important experience for a lot of those other guys as a result of like, we got to take out those 2 really good players here and there. We just have to. I think like that ended up paying some dividends more for this year. And we saw against Alabama that like, yeah, that front can still just absolutely dominate. That was not like a slouch of an offensive line. And it wasn't like they were missing a bunch of guys. And the line just dominated up front. Absolutely dominated. And just think about the fact that you had 2 more guys. You're going to see the same guys and plus 2 more who theoretically should be really good. So I think it starts there. And then, same thing, you go back to the linebackers and it's like those guys started slow in general. You had Jay Sean, who was just like too freakishly athletic and just ran himself out of plays until later in the year. Now he knows what to do. So it doesn't need to be yelled at as much. More so that like the question ends up being the boundary secondary, like is that going to be deep enough to be able to carry them? But the good news is you can see a synergy that could happen where the front should dominate enough where the secondary, you might have a little bit of ability to kind of ease in and find its depth as it goes on. But yeah, man, like I think this defense is probably top 3 in the country and is probably not 3.